Good morning, and welcome to another inspiring episode of the Good Morning Minute podcast, where we start the day with purpose, passion, and a little bit of power. I'm your host, Angelina Mojica, and today's conversation is part of a special series in partnership with the Empower Her Steps virtual conference, a movement rooted in helping women rise, heal, and walk boldly into the life God designed for them. Our mission is simple but powerful, empowering life purpose. Because we believe that when a woman finds clarity in her calling, everything changes for her family, community, and the generations to come. So grab yourself a cup of coffee, take a deep breath, and get ready to be uplifted as we dive deep into real stories, honest lessons, and bold steps towards purpose with today's incredible guest. And we have Mike today. Hello, Mike. Welcome to the show.
Angelina, hi. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So excited to get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah,
But before we do so, why don't you take some time to introduce yourself to our listeners?
sure. Hello, listeners. Mike Todasco here. Good to meet you all. I am a father of two. My daughter is, I don't know what she's doing in the other room right now, but you might see her run in here at some point. 11 years old, but still does that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
My background, my career started in the world of finance. I'm originally from Chicago. I grew up kind of collecting like sports cards and very much into sports and memorabilia and stuff like that. And that kind of got me into the world of business, and that entered me into finance. And that led me to technology. I was at PayPal for like 11 years,
Oh,
and
wow.
including the back half of my time there, I was running innovation for the company, which was a very cool job as a non-technologist to be doing something like that. And I left there about 3 years ago to explore more stuff in the world of AI, and that's what I do today. I am at San Diego State University. They have an AI center there, and I do a lot of things related to that world now.
Oh, fun. I'm just starting to get acquainted with AI myself. And it is a game changer for
Mhm.
sure. Yes, I
Yeah.
enjoy it.
It's amazing too, because it helps with so many little things. Like literally, it's so funny, Angelina. I had this little piece of paper right next to me, and it was just because I was reading something today. It was like this list of movies. I'm like, oh, there's a bunch of movies here I haven't seen, so I just start writing them all down. Just before I got on, I took a picture of it with ChatGPT, and I said, hey, find out what streaming services in the US all of these movies are currently on, and it just returned that to me. So now I know which ones I could actually watch instead of having to do them individually and all that. Like, obviously, a very little example, but like, those are the kind of things you could start to do. We're like, oh, wow, I didn't know you
Yeah.
could do that. But like, yeah, you could do that today. That's kind of cool.
Absolutely. And I like Chat GPT because it filters the internet for me. And so
Yeah.
I'll just go in there and just like you said, hey, give me a quick summary of, the top 10, whatever. And it'll
Yeah,
boom, right then and there in a matter of seconds. Nothing more better than that, I don't think.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
Well, so Mike, before we get started in the heart of our conversation, I want to ask you just a fun little question to get to know you a little bit more.
Sure.
Are you more of a sunrise or sunset person?
Oh, naturally, I am a sunset person. I'm an evening person. I've
Uh,
always was like that. I was like that growing up and so forth. But having two kids just forces you to get up earlier if you want to have anything done. So, I usually get up even on weekends, probably about 6 o'clock or so in the morning. I will see plenty of sunrises in my time. It is a pretty beautiful thing to actually see that, and a great way to start the day.
yeah, I am. I like sunset because I feel like my energy is revived around that time in the
Oh,
evenings. I come
nice.
to life. Um, but I also get up pretty early as well, although I'm not much of a morning person. But in the back of my mind, my programming that's running is you're sleeping your life away because that's what my mom would say on the weekends growing up. Get up, you're sleeping your life away. And I'm just like, I can't sleep my life away. I don't want to do that.
It is Angelino, it's funny how we just store those files, those little things that our parents say. And I try to be super conscious of this as a father. I'm like, what am I saying to my kids that 20 years from now they're going to
Mhm.
be on some podcast, they're going to be saying whatever, like either good or bad. What
Yeah.
are the things that I have instilled in them? And like, it's amazing. You don't control all that. You don't exactly know what the impact is going to be and
Mhm.
everything, but it's amazing what are the things that stick with you.
Yeah, I have three adult children, and so talking with them about their different perspectives, and from their view, their lens and stuff, and it's hilarious the things that they come up with, and I'm like, wow, okay,
So
well,
what were you able to instill in them? I'm curious.
yeah, so my oldest, who's 29 years old, like he is so intentional with his words. So like when he speaks, it's like whoa. And I'm like, where did you get that from? And he's like, you. And I'm just like, oh wow, okay. I don't
Is he like a
remember.
lawyer or something like that, where that very much would
No,
fit
he is
into? No? Okay.
actually in the food industry. He's in
No
food
way.
management, so restaurant management. And so he
Oh,
does all
okay.
of
I can
that.
see that. Yeah.
But it's hilarious because he works, he's getting older, so now he's working with like your Gen Zs and those younger generations. And so he's like, man, the work ethic out here, mom. And I'm like, wow, yeah.
It's something when your own kid is saying, "Oh boy, kids these days, I just can't." You're
It's
like, "Wait a
hilarious.
minute, you're
I'm like, you're only
adult. What are you
29
talking
years
about?"
old. Calm down, guy. Calm down. He cracks me up. I love him. So, Mike, let's just go ahead and jump into our conversation. I'm going to
Sure.
ask you, what was a defining moment of challenge or maybe pain in your life, and how did it impact you?
God. Angela, this is like something that I mean, I think there's so many things in life that this gave me like a chance of self-reflection. If I could give a little bit of background, try to walk through
Sure.
my thought process of this, because look, I've had a blessed life. I really have. I mean, I have a wonderful wife. I have amazing kids. My parents are still with us. They're together. There's so many things that I just feel so fortunate for in this life. And well, it wasn't one event. I'm trying to think I went down the path of regrets. As much as I can, I
Yeah.
try to live my life in that standpoint of like not having regrets and and just like if there's a chance to do something, you just do it. But I'm like, so where did I fall short of that? That's
Hmm.
kind of like what I was looking for. And I think the place, and I don't know if this is exactly where you want this to go, but like this is where I would like where my mind went to as
Uh-huh.
part of that was like when I was growing up, I was so petrified of rejection, of failure, of all of these things like in my
Hmm.
life. Like I couldn't, I think I was like 20 years old before I talked to a girl. I mean, I was petrified of this stuff in my life, and I don't even know where that came from or anything like that. But like, so much of like my early years, like, were defined by that.
Hmm.
That's one thing where I'm like, God, I was just so afraid to take a chance, so afraid to try
Yeah.
something, I was always like, oh, I'm behind on this. I'm not going to play this sports team because I'm going to whatever. I was just, I don't want to say cowardly, but for like my older self looks at my younger self and like, man, why were you like that? What drove that? And so forth. So like,
Uh-huh.
that's kind of my answer. It's just
Yeah.
like it wasn't one event or anything like this, but it was just like this pattern that I had all through my youth that drives me crazy looking back at it today.
Yeah, and you know what? I appreciate, your honesty in this because not everything has to have like a painful moment, but it was definitely a challenge in, your own limiting beliefs, as far as
Yeah.
I'm scared of rejection, so I'm not going to try. I'm self-preserving, self-preservation.
Yeah.
I don't want to put myself out there because what if it doesn't work out? Because those things can also, impact your life. You
Yeah.
didn't take chances, you didn't take risk.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was always looking for, in so many ways, it was a safe route. It was the easy street. It was the thing that I was familiar with. It was the whatever. It was, never getting outside of my comfort zone or any of these other kind
Mhm.
of things. And, and I think in my adult life, I've been more conscious and tried to move 180 degrees. And I don't even know how I really got from there to there with that. But like,
Uh-huh.
when I just look back at that, I'm like, oh gosh, like there's so much more that could have been my youth that like I'm like, man, why didn't I just embrace that at the time?
Yeah. So what was it? Was there like maybe a moment in because you talk about reflecting back and going as an adult, looking at your younger self, going, where did that come from? Like, why didn't you even try? Like, what was
Yeah,
going on? Was there ever a moment where you just shifted your mindset and said, you know what, I am gonna try a little, a little risk taking or something like that?
two things. I'll throw out there.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, I think there was. So one of those was I was right out of college, and I was maybe a couple years out of college. I had a job where I was doing like finance for a paper company, like the kind of like literally like The Office, Thunder Mifflin, that kind of stuff. Like that was my job, basically,
Mm-hmm.
was doing that kind of stuff. And it wasn't very rewarding, but there was somebody I really enjoyed working with who was there. Um, he was funny and we just kind of got along and just started doing this. And at some point we are like, um, and I think it was a lot of his encouragement. I'm like, why don't we make a TV show? And I was like, what? What are you talking about? This was 2002, mind you. So this was before YouTube. Like distribution did not really exist before for that kind of stuff way back then.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I kind of just followed him and his lead on that. I'd done stuff like that, like by myself. I'd never done that in a public way.
Uh-huh.
And that was one way for me to just kind of get out there and really do that. And we put together this thing. It was called the Almost Serious TV show. It was like a sketch comedy show. We made, over a year's time, we made about 60 minutes of footage. We like hired people. We did all this stuff. I did all the editing and we both wrote and did all this other kind of stuff. And we literally went to public access TV stations and shipped it around. Like, I don't even know if most of the people listening to this right now are going to know what public access TV is, but
Uh-huh.
basically, like on every cable network, you had like one local station, and I think it
Mm-hmm.
was like even government mandated that it had to be there. It had to put on stuff, and people could go like. So we literally were like driving around the Midwest, dropping off VHS tapes of our show, and doing that. And like that was something that I had so much fun doing, so much excitement, and I think maybe that was at least part of what started to get me out of my shell.
Uh-huh.
Um, so that's one, and I said there was another. Second one. I would say was a friend's wedding. My friend asked me to MC the wedding, and I remember this so well. It was probably around the same time, and I said, "Sure, I'll do it." I've never done anything like that before, but she trusted me, and it was a big Indian wedding, like lots of people there, like hundreds and
Uh-huh.
hundreds of people, and I'm some white guy schlub that doesn't even, like don't really know the culture, but like, okay, this is cool. I could do this. I
Uh-huh.
could fit in as best I can. I can embrace this. And I remember getting up there. I didn't really practice or anything like that. I didn't even know what to practice, but I kind of knew what I was going to do and say. I got up there, and this was in a big hall, and I just remember talking to the microphone, and a second and a half later, I hear my voice come back to me. Like I had never been in like a big hall doing this with that echo before, and so it just completely, Angelina, it completely threw me off. Like it was awful. Like that the whole thing just kind of put me off. Then I was stuttering and confused, and it put me in this downward spiral,
Oh
and
no.
it was a disaster. It was a total disaster. Still friends this day, at least. I
Oh,
will say. So
well.
at least that held through. But like, it was a complete mess, a complete train wreck.
Uh-huh.
And I remember, like, I think I was obsessed with that for like maybe, I don't know, 6 months or so. Just like literally, a day couldn't go by where I didn't think of that four, five, six times or something. It was just constantly like replaying in my brain. And
Wow.
I remember at some point it did just kind of go away. And it was just like, okay, like that happened, and like, yeah, that sucked, and okay, how do we not do that again? And I honestly felt it made me more comfortable to at least do things like that. Like right now, Angelina, I could get in front of 10,000 people and just have a talk. I really
Uh-huh.
could. I feel very comfortable in that situation in part because I know what it's like to really bomb and bomb hard
Yeah.
in a very personal way. And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, okay, it's not going to be as bad as that. And I don't know, like these two things, maybe though both like contributed to
Yeah.
like turning the switch.
No, and I like that you're talking about like a really good moment, but then also a really pivoting moment as far as a learning experience. Like, what's the worst that it could be?
Yeah,
This I've experienced it, so it can only get better from here. Like,
yeah,
so that helps. That helps with us learning. And so next time you're in front of a large crowd, you're able to just flow and understand, how to get yourself there, what you're going to talk about, things like that. I
yeah.
think that's a great to learn from those moments.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think, I think in some way in my brain, it was just like, I've been obsessing for this for so long. Like, you just got to get on it. And you either got to learn from this or something. I don't know what it was, but it really felt just like something clicked and it became more of a learning moment than anything else. And and again, I mean, blessing in disguise that I had that and that I was able
Yeah.
to, like move on and actually set me up to do more speaking or whatever other things that helped me in my career after that.
Yeah. So what was that? What was so you were like kind of a rock bottom moment in that sense of, bombing in that situation. But what was the growth from it? Like what walk us through that. What
Mm.
you're doing more speaking events. So what was the growth behind it?
I remember soon after that, it probably would have been a year or so after that, I
Hmm.
was actually at my employer, the paper company, and we are doing some sort of session where I remember we had to give just like extemporaneous speech about
Hmm.
something.
Hmm.
And like we didn't have a lot of time to prepare. And I remember just for a lot of people in the room, it was very stressful. And I remember looking at everybody in the room and kind of seeing that level of stress. And this was the Spider-Man, the original San Raimi Spider-Man movies from the early 2000s. I think maybe
Uh-huh.
the first and the second. So like they had just sort of come out. They were very much in the cultural zeitgeist. And I remember I did like 2 minutes on the Spider-Man from Voltaire quote of "With great power comes great responsibility."
Uh-huh.
And what that meant and like the impact of that. And like I remember I did 2 minutes and actually after I did those 2 minutes, I had never really thought of it before. For some reason that popped in my head. I was able to calmly and I think eloquently, at least in my brain, it seemed eloquently. Who knows what the audience was experiencing from that, but it seemed to just flow. And I
Uh-huh.
just remember like I felt after that like, okay. I didn't feel nervous. And I remember seeing everybody else around me that was, and I'm like, huh, maybe there's something there. So like, so this horrible event happens of like just
Hmm.
really bombing, then get to a place where you're doing in a much smaller group, you get to do that. And I think it was just like incremental step ups from there. But like that's the one I remember was that Spider-Man speech that I gave
Uh-huh.
at that time, and that was kind of like, oh, okay, maybe I can do this. I forget what it's called. You probably know much more about this than I, but the whole concept, if you're frightened to speak in public, what you can do is just take incremental steps with that. So like
Hmm.
talk to yourself, then talk to yourself in front of a mirror, and then talk to your dog or cats, or as you would have. Like give your speech to your cat and get a reaction. And then talk to a friend, but have a friend in the other room, and then have your friend in the hallway, and then have your friend in the same room. And like all of these are just little incremental steps to get you more and more comfortable. And it wasn't like that exactly, but I feel that's probably sort of how the journey I went on. It was still early in my career. It wasn't in front of big audiences or anything like that, but it
Uh-huh.
just set me up where like I could and I don't know, maybe I was lucky. Maybe it was that little speech thing that I gave on Spider-Man that actually helped reset that. It was 20 years ago. It's hard to exactly remember, but
Yeah.
those two things really did align.
Wow. And so how has it shaped who you are today? Like this growth, this experience, how's it shaped who you are today?
I don't know. So I was at so I live in San Francisco Bay Area.
Uh-huh.
I love watching basketball. So my daughter and I actually went to the Valkyries game. So it's the new WNBA team that we have,
Hmm.
and I was just there last night, and it was an amazing time, super fun. I just struck up a conversation with the person next to me, and I'm like. I was never a just talk to somebody who's next to me type person before. Like my daughter was there, and like my dad was always that. My mom would never be like that.
Uh-huh.
And I was always much more like my mom. And I don't know, maybe in my age, I've become more like my dad with that. But I feel I am much more open to just kind of take a chance and just say something and have that
Yeah.
conversation and even do things to make myself more open to have those conversations. Where, like,
Mm.
look, if you're wearing your earbuds or something, that's a universal symbol of, hey, don't talk to me.
Yeah.
and try to, like, as much as I can in more situations, like, not do that. Have that, make yourself open, give that person a smile, whatever. So I think in some ways it at least has made me, I'm probably naturally introverted, to be honest, but like it is let me know it's okay. And in some ways it's kind of forced me. I know it's good for me to talk to other people. I always feel good afterwards. And
Yeah.
maybe it's just taken me 48 years to really realize like, hey, it's okay to do these things. But like,
Uh-huh.
I don't know. I see myself doing more and more of that.
Yeah. And it's the little steps, because this is important for people to understand. When you're stepping out of comfort zones, you don't have to take this like gigantic leap, but you can take little baby steps. You can start with like talking to a stranger at,
Yes.
a WNBA game and just
Yeah.
going, hey,
Little
who are you rooting for? Who's your favorite team?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Who's
You,
your
you
favorite
come to
player?
these games, you see this before, did you see that? Like, whatever. And like, we're just starting to,
Yeah.
it's totally cool to do that. And like, there's certain places to where you can really, do that in safe environments. And then it just kind of goes up and up and up from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, yeah. So,
Yep.
and I love that we started in a moment of like, oh yeah, I know the worst, the worst situation, but from that, just building your confidence up in knowing that, because now you have answered your what if question. Like, what if I don't get it right? You've
Yeah,
experienced that, so you definitely have that experience under your belt. You have the awareness of that, but then now you're like, okay, so now I know how to do it. I know how to deliver it well, and it's not going to happen again. And we're going to get better and better with every, moment of practice. Love it. Um,
absolutely. Oh, and Angelina, if I can, because it made me think of a real analogy
sure.
from my life and my career. So, like, when I was teaching, like, when I was running the innovation group at PayPal, one of the things I would do was kind of teach innovation to people in the company. And when people hear the word innovation or creativity or all this kind of stuff, they often think of like that big, huge thing, like,
Mhm.
sending a rocket to Mars or whatever it might be, those kind of things. And what I always, always, always tried to get people in the corporation to see was that the innovations that are going to matter are the little things. They are the
Mhm.
tiny incremental things that are just a little bit way of better doing something, of think about a way to solve a problem better for a customer, whatever it be. It is those little incremental things that will yield the bigger things in the end. And so
Mhm.
it's so interesting because like I would always harp on that. For years, I talked about that exact same thing, and I never really thought about like applying it to these other places, just like you said here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's say, Mike, somebody out there is listening and going, man, I'm scared to take risk. I still don't do the things just because of fear of rejection or whatever the case may be. What kind of advice would you give a person sitting in that mindset?
Love it. Well, here, honestly, send me an email. Just, like, take a chance with me. Like, so just miketedasco@gmail.com. Just send me an email. If you've made it this far in the discussion, just shoot me an email and whatever and say, hey, Mike, I'm not a person who likes to do this. I'm just going to take a risk with you and put something out there about, like, I don't know what the hell you want to talk about, but, or just whatever. It's like, just do that. Do that. Or so one other thing, like you could also just reframe these things into to
Mhm.
making it a success. I'm reading a book. Oh boy, I don't know if it's around here or not. I was reading in the garage recently. It is about it's by Amy Webb. Amy is awesome. I've known her. She wrote it a long time ago. It was all about her journey doing online dating. And
Mhm.
it's great because it talks about data and all this real geeky stuff that Amy is into. But one of the things that she does do in there is kind of reframe things. She doesn't
Mhm.
like look at like dates that don't work as being failures. You just like looks, Thomas Edison quote of I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just found, 10,000 ways to not make a light bulb. It's that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And by
Mhm.
reframing that, I think that will help you, um, get more into, the process and just learning that like these are all baby steps to get you to whatever that ultimate goal that you want to have is. And so like thinking about that is huge.
Mhm.
It's making me think about one other thing, and I didn't even realize I did this, like it related to this now, and I'm like, oh my God, this was one way I was actually able to get up over failure early in my career. Um, Actually, I was in college. So back when I was in college, I almost forgot I did this. I used to get, this was in the day when you would go for a job, you would get rejected. They would send you a rejection letter. So
Ah,
literally
yeah.
in the mail, I would get a piece of paper that says, "Hey, Mike, you suck. I don't want to have you at our company." That didn't actually say that, but that's of course my interpretation of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So in college, I'm trying to get a job my senior year, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? And I remember getting a few of these and feeling like, oh, this sucks. Um, I went to the dollar store. There was a dollar. I went to Champaign, Illinois. That's where I was. There's a dollar store in Champaign. I went out there. I remember I bought like 40, 8.5 by 11 frames, like
Uh-huh.
dollar each, spent like 40 bucks. So it was just some real money at the time. I'm like, I'm doing that. And I took each of those rejection letters and I literally put them in a frame. And I literally had them around the perimeter of my apartment that I had in there.
Uh-huh.
And honestly, Angelina, it was cool because it actually became a conversation piece. It wasn't like, oh, these companies all think I sucked. It would be like, hey, look at all this. Like, this is actually cool that I got rejected from all these companies.
Uh,
Um, and while, as we've been talking about that, that predated some of this other stuff. So, that was like maybe another incremental step that I almost forgot about
yeah.
that led me down that path. But like, that was a great way to just and turn that into almost a badge of honor in some ways. I'm cool
Yeah.
enough that Shell gasoline, I remember they were one of the companies, they rejected me about whatever job that was. Yeah.
Wow. No, and you know what? That just in itself, because we get so blindsided or just kind of lose focus when we're trying to pursue goals when we get one rejection, you
Yes.
know, but that just shows the significance of the try.
Yes.
You keep going, because eventually you did get employed, like eventually
Yeah.
you did get a job, but it took you how many tries to get it, get it right. And not only that, to find the right place for you, because
Totally.
what if you had stepped into one of those positions and it just wasn't, in line with kind of your own personal goals and what you wanted to, do for yourself in your life and things like that. So,
Absolutely. I mean,
yeah.
at the very least, like I probably did fail about, I probably used just about every one of those 40 frames. I did finally find a company that accepted me, and that company is actually where I met my wife, in fact, and we've been married for 22 years now. So
There
that
you
is
go.
pretty damn
Yeah.
awesome, like how all that worked out.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is about that process and reframing. And yeah, maybe there is something to being rejected multiple times is almost easier than just being like having a single failure because maybe you're just putting all your hopes in that one thing. That's another reason like, my kids do, a little bit. My older son's 14. He talks about college
Mhm.
a little bit. Um, and he's kind of like, yeah, I want to go to this school. And I'm like, don't just go to a school. Because like when you have all your hopes in one thing, like you don't know what's going to happen. Like
Mhm.
it's just there's so many things. You never say, I need to work at this company, I need to go to this school, I need to this person. Like you need to be
Yeah.
much more open because like there are so many things outside of your control that like who knows? Even if you do everything right, it might not work out.
True. That's all true. Well, as we start closing our conversation, Mike, I do want to ask you a question of a legacy and impact. If today were your last day, what would you want to be remembered for?
Oh gosh. I hope that I could. So when going back to my days at PayPal, before I had that innovation job, I had this job where I had a team of like 10 people. And those people talked. One of the first things I always ask people is, do you find yourself to be an innovative or a creative person? I use those
Mm,
interchangeably. And I remember my team that I inherited, half said yes, half said no. And my goal with that team, it wasn't anything else. Like it was literally get all those no's to see themselves as a yes. Because I
uh-huh.
think that just being creative and being innovative is so important to our identity as a species. That is like how we got to where we are today as humans. And I feel like when people don't see that in themselves, they're missing half of themselves. And this is why I do podcasts. This is why I did all the things that I did at PayPal and talk about this and teach about this and all this other kind of stuff. Like I hope that I've been able to let people see the creativity that lies within them. And that, if I could have that as my legacy, like
Mhm.
I'm happy. I'm real happy with that.
Wonderful. Well, Mike, my last question to you today is if you could leave maybe a word of encouragement with someone listening who's trying to figure out maybe their life purpose, what would that be?
Um, I would first say don't be too hard on yourself. Like it took me probably 35 years before I figured out like, oh, I think this is what I really want to do. Just
Mhm.
experiment, try things out, be open, and just be easy on yourself with this. But just keep asking questions. Like you will figure this thing out. You will find whatever that purpose is for you.
Wonderful. Well, Mike, I know that you do podcasts frequently, and if someone wanted to invite you to their podcast, how could they get in contact with you?
Sure, Mike Todasco at Gmail. And Angelina, do I owe you like a therapy bill for this? Because I feel like honestly, I feel like this is billable hours that you need to send out for me. Because
I'll
like this was
invoice you
very
later. How about
opening for
that?
me here. Like I don't have to go to session this week
No,
now.
you don't. You're good. You're good. We got it
No,
covered.
but please, anybody can reach out to me about a podcast or anything like that we talked about. I'm here to serve you all as best I can.
Wonderful. Well, Mike, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your heart, your story, and your light with us today. It's conversations like this that remind us purpose isn't about perfection. It's just about showing up and growing through the things that we go through. Every step matters. Here at the Good Morning Minute podcast and through the Empower Her Steps movement, we believe every woman has a calling worth discovering and a voice worth using. So wherever you are today, friend, remember your purpose is powerful and you're not walking alone. So until next time, keep rising, keep trusting, keep walking boldly into the life God has designed for you. I'm Angelina Mojica, your life coach, sending you much love, much peace, many blessings.